going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, back here to talk about Night 2, to preview Night 2 of Halloween Havoc on NXT. How are we doing today? Let me know how you're doing today. Are you as excited about Halloween and actual Halloween as I am, or am I just the weirdo on the corner once again? Gotta say, I'm really looking forward to Night 2, and part of that is off the back of how good Night 1 was. We don't quite get the chance to have a feeling like this with something like WrestleMania that's spread over 2 nights, because you're literally jumping into it the next day. You don't really get much preamble, but last week's show was really good. You've heard my review on it and all that kind of thing. I'm not gonna go over it all over again. Some of it was predictable. Some of it was sort of, yeah, that went pretty much how I thought it was going to go. Got a live music presentation. Got to see Shotzi, and that's, you know, it's going to make Spaz happy because Spaz likes Shotzi, Spaz likes NXT, and Spaz likes Halloween, and therefore Spaz likes Halloween Havoc. But here's the thing. We have the same conversation with WrestleMania. What's better, Night 1 or Night 2? I mean, it's Night 2 most of the time, unless you're having really, really problematic arguments on X. But if Night 2 wants to be really good, it's got a lot to contend with. I mean, basically, you got 3 posts of Night 1's show. You got the debut of Lexis King, which, from what I've seen, is getting mixed reviews. That's fine, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but as a first night out, I thought it was pretty cool, considering I wasn't very high on Brian Pillman Jr. before this. We got new tag team champions in Chase U, and we got the huge upset by Lyra Valkyria that was kind of like, what the fuck? Hey, they did something cool there. Now, could you be pragmatic about it and just say, well, yeah, that just signifies that Becky's done in NXT, then fine, then awesome. She managed to put over several different women on NXT while treating the NXT title like a main roster mid-card title at the same time. That's not bad. That's not a bad thing. If you look at nothing else, if you look at the match she gave Lyra, look at the 2 matches she gave Tiffany Stratton, who's another one who still doesn't get the credit that she deserves, which is mind-boggling. I mean, it's not, really. She suffers from a little bit of Charlotte Flair syndrome as far as the fans are concerned. But yeah, you got a big debut, you got a big crossover from AEW debut, and yes, that carries some headline, whether we like it or not. You got 2 different title changes, and one of them being the shocker with Lyra Valkyria over Becky Lynch. So, what are we going to do? What are we going to do on Night 2? Let's start with the obvious, Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice, with Elektra Lopez in her corner, apparently, for this one, in the finals of the NXT Breakout Tournament. Now, Kalani Jordan has beaten Izzy Dame and Ariane Grace to get where she is now. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I've been saying Ariane, but it's Ariana as it's written out. So somebody correct me down in the box below. And Lola Vice has beaten Danny Palmer and Carmen Petrovic, as we've seen last week. So it's going to be a really good match. I know a lot of people are really high on Lola Vice. I don't want it to come across like I'm not. I just feel like Kalani Jordan is the chosen one here. Like Roxanne Perez was. It's fine to have a field and to sort of look at that field and be like, yeah, she's winning. But I mean, she was already being featured on television. She was being mentored by Dana Brooke, which, I mean, I get people's opinions are mixed on Dana Brooke. That's fine, but you still brought a main roster talent down to mentor this new person. So there's a story there. They already had something going into the tournament. And I'm sorry, I keep saying it, but they've already featured her on a pay-per-view. Like, they've already got ideas for her. And, like I said last week, she's really, really, really put some snap into that split-legged moonsault as a finisher. I'm going with Kalani Jordan. If it's Lola Vice, I hope it's not because Elektra Lopez is in her corner. The tournaments that they do on NXT are something that I just let it be whatever it is. Let them have their happy moment, whatever the case may be. Again, I look back to last week, Lyra Valkyria, Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was losing her shit by the end of that match, and they just had a nice sportsman, here's a hug, let me raise your hand, pass the torch, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Jade Cargill was up on the crow's nest, but she didn't get involved, so it's fine. Just give this an end. If it's Lola Vice, cool. If it's Lola Vice, then give Lola Vice a push because Kalani Jordan's already had one. I'm fine with that as well. But I really do think it's going to be Kalani Jordan. I hope Elektra Lopez's participation in it is minimal, and that's about all I can say. Not going to spend too much time on Mr. Stone versus Braun Breaker because I kind of did that last week when I thought it was happening last week. This is going to be a segment. This isn't going to be a real match. Robbie E, back in the day in TNA and other places, when he was a wrestler, was entertaining as hell, but as I said last week, I'm going to retread old territory. He's done such a good job in playing this manager role that I'm going to perceive him as a manager getting the shit kicked out of him. Because he's just done that. He has, as opposed to like, if a manager decided to come out and be a wrestler, they would have to elevate themselves to the occasion. Mr. Stone has effectively shrunk himself down to this manager role, and I think that as a character thing, that's really cool. Braun Breaker is an electric guy to watch right now because he's like got the super hyper jock energy that a lot of people really don't like. He's kind of got a little bit of Ultimate Warrior in the sense of like, I'm being an asshole right now, but underneath my being an asshole, I might also run through that wall element to him. And he's kind of still got the thing going with Carmelo and with Baron Corbin. I think he's putting it out there himself. I don't think the other two are necessarily reciprocating it. But it looks to me like Braun Breaker, in all his interactions with Carmelo Hayes and all his interactions with Baron Corbin, is playing a game in his own head of who can be the bigger asshole. Now, with Baron Corbin, that's a lot of fun. I mean, Baron Corbin is also an asshole, and Baron Corbin's really good in NXT as well. I think it's going to fester into the Carmelo Hayes heel turn. We'll talk about that later. But it really is him having a rivalry with two guys that don't care that they're in a rivalry. And I think watching him snap and watching him destroy Mr. Stone will be a lot of fun. It'll have a little bit of the Ryback appeal without all the unfortunate Ryback opinions on social media these days. Now, the other thing that we've heard from all the footage of Von Wagner being in the rehab center and whatever, putting his skull back together and whatever, I've heard a lot of people say because it's Halloween, they're going to bring back Von Wagner and they've built him up bigger, badder, stronger, and he's NXT's Frankenstein. As funny as that would be, and as much as I would definitely believe it in NXT, two reasons I don't want to see that is A, there's only one story really in NXT, and I know NXT's not the place for it, don't get me wrong. It's the only story in NXT really that has any sort of actual human emotional heft to it. You know, Von Wagner, this big misunderstood monster that was made fun of as a kid, and he's finally found himself a friend, and, you know, Mr. Stone's, you know, worried about him, taking care of him and all that sort of thing, and he's suffered this horrendous injury. I actually want to see them maintain that as, like, the sort of emotional center of NXT, and yes, I know how dumb that sounds. I'm almost going to be disappointed also, and I'm going to flip this over to TNA for a second, because I'm thinking about it. Guys, I'm thinking about it. Tell me down in the box below if you'd be interested. Once Impact becomes TNA again, I'm going to start doing more TNA content. And they have PCO. And PCO is the wrestling Frankenstein, the French-Canadian Frankenstein. So if they turn Von Wagner from this character that they've done so much work with, and pretty good work, actually, into Frankenstein for the night, it's not going to look like knockoff Frankenstein. It's going to look like knockoff PCO. And I don't know that that works. I really don't know that that works. I hope it's just Braun Breaker destroys Mr. Stone, Von Wagner and Mr. Stone are in like matching hospital beds, like a better version of the Roderick Strong, Adam Cole stuff. And they come back bigger, badder, better. Mr. Stone decides he wants to be a wrestler, and the two of them kick the crap out of Braun Breaker in like a month or so. Like do it at New Year's Evil. They haven't actually announced whether they're doing a New Year's Evil yet, but do it at New Year's Evil. That would be absolutely fine. The Creed brothers are giving us a gift because the Creed brothers are having a tables, ladders, and scares match with Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. Now, Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza are athletic as hell. They've been doused in like 3 or 4 really shit gimmicks, and I hope this whole like we're not going to be a gimmick anymore gimmick works for them. It is similar to what Baron Corbin did, like burn the ships, burn the gimmicks, all that kind of thing. I'm just going to come here and kick some ass. But Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo are doing it from a little bit more of a heritage point of view. And I mean, they're very different wrestlers than Baron Corbin, let's be real for a second. But the Creed brothers and these guys in a TLC match. I mean, it's a tables, ladders, and scares. Yes, it's a wordplay and whatever. But it's a TLC match. And TLC matches are really just ladder matches with extra weapons. Not putting them down. They're a lot of fun. Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian. All those guys. All those guys are in... No. All of those guys, 4 of those guys are in AEW. One of them is in Impact, soon to be TNA. And I don't know what Devon's doing. He came back and had like a match. But anyways, I'm getting far, far, far off the point. So, Tables, Ladders, and Scares is really Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. Tables, Ladders, and Chairs is really just a ladders match with extra weapons. You put these 4, like, freak athletes in a ladder match, it's gonna be a good time. I wish they had announced or made it somewhat clear that this would be a #1 contenders match, because Humberto Carrillo, Angel Garza, and the Creed brothers going at each other in a ladder match, it needs to have something at the top of the ladder. And what's at the top of the ladder? Ooh, it's a contract to face the brand new tag team champions, Chase U. Can you imagine the Creed brothers versus Chase U? It would be a lot of fun, because the Creed brothers are jocks, and Chase U is a university. They could do, like, shtick where they're in the Chase U gymnasium. There could be a lot of fun play there. Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo could just walk in and think that Chase U are lame, and Duke Hudson could boot their faces off because he's the best hot tag in the game. That would have been a really cool thing. I don't know. It's always the thing. And AEW took the really cheesy route the one time where they hung up the literal brass ring because everything that they do has to be a knock on Vince McMahon. But the fact remains that if you're doing a ladders match of any size or description, then you have to be climbing that ladder for something. And because it's Halloween, if they have to resort to, they're climbing up the ladder for the magical Halloween mask, I mean, I'll laugh, but I wish it was for more, because all 4 of these guys are good. I mean, the Creed brothers are really getting their due right now, it seems, from a lot of people. Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo, people are less likely to get invested in them because they've had so many shitty gimmicks. The Creed brothers as well are going to have Ivy Nile with them, and she's fantastic, so I wonder if Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo are going to have somebody come out with them. That could be an interesting tweak that I just thought of just now. I'm going to go with the Creed brothers, because the Creed brothers are fucking awesome. We're going to get a Brutus ball off the ladder, and I'm just going to put the clipboard down for a second and be like, that is just a thing that happened. Going with the Creed brothers, like most of these matches, hey, I'm going with A. If B wins, I'd be absolutely fine. Garza and Carrillo have to do something to punctuate this new, okay, we're now going to be serious thing that they're doing, but I'm going with the Creeds. Dirty Dominic Mysterio is going to retain his championship against Nathan Frazier, probably because Rhea Ripley, like, body slams Nathan Frazier into next week. Let's be real for a second. I said it before, I'll say it again. I like how Dominic is walking around with an NXT championship acting like he's too good for NXT. Judgment Day, let me know if you guys agree with me on this. Judgment Day are like a mini NWO within the universe of NXT, because when they come along, they're sort of seen as intruders, they're sort of seen as outsiders, and the fact that Dominic Mysterio has the main mid-card championship is seen as this huge insult. So everybody that goes up against Dominic Mysterio is like, I'm going to win that belt and I'm going to bring it back to NXT. You know, Ric Flair ripping the belt away from Hogan or whatever. Ric Flair is all elite. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, or hit me up at Spaz Phoenix on X. Talked a lot of shit about Vince and then hired Ric Flair. Just saying, Cracky Khan is cracking. Nathan Frazier's awesome. Dominic Mysterio, like, in hiding almost, is becoming a pretty decent wrestler. I imagine this match is going to be great. I imagine there's going to be a comical moment where Rhea Ripley looms over Nathan Frazier and, like I say, throws him into next week. Use the Adam Nicholas expression, chuck him around like an empty tracksuit. Dominic Mysterio is retaining. Judgment Day are going to carry all the gold into 2024. That's my early prediction. Oh, yes. But Nathan Frazier should get something at some point. I just don't know what it is. Bring him up to SmackDown and have him go up against Rey Mysterio. Maybe? I don't know. But Rey Mysterio is about to lose that championship that he has to Logan Paul in Saudi Arabia. And people are going to bitch. Anyways, people are going to bitch that Rey lost, people are going to bitch that Logan Paul won, and people are going to bitch that it happened in Saudi Arabia. But those are the same people that are pretending that they're not watching the show. I'm doing a shrug emoji. I know it doesn't work very well in an audio platform, but I'm doing a big old shrug emoji. It's fine. Tag teams. Tag team championships. Tag team champions new last week for Chase U. So how about we say the new tag team champions are Chase U again, but with the women. Thea Hale and JC Jane are taking on Chelsea Green and Piper Niven for the overall WWE Women's Tag Team Championships because the NXT ones got absorbed. Did they not? I really hope they win. I don't really have anything else other than that because the Tag Team Championships for the ladies has been treated like crap. You would think that the women's tag team division in WWE was booked by Tony Khan. Chelsea Green has had a lot of bad luck with partners and partners getting injured. Well, I shouldn't say injured. Carmella got pregnant and Sonya Deville got injured. They talk about the titles being cursed and whatever. I would love to see, because they're doing this little thing on SmackDown right now with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, actually doing backstage skits, making fun of how cursed those belts are, and saying, oh, who could have possibly put a curse on those championships? What I would love to see, I really would, I would love to see Isla Dawn and Alba Fire come back to NXT to win the WWE Tag Team Champions and bring them to SmackDown to see if we can do something with them on SmackDown. It can be a... What's his name? Nick Aldis. I keep wanting to say Nigel McGuinness, but it's not, because he's over with the other guys. He's the brand new GM of SmackDown. He could play it off as, you know what, one thing that's never been done properly is these women's tag team championships, that I'm going to make sure that they're treated with the prestige that they deserve. And that's why I'm sending Isla Dawn and Alba Fire to NXT to add to this match. I mean, the two of them showing up for a Halloween show works anyway. I'm entirely speculating on that. If I'm right, I'm going to feel really good. If I'm wrong, I would love Chase U to win those titles and let those titles live on NXT for a little bit, because look at all the women's wrestling they do on NXT. Last week's show had 5 women's matches on it. 5. 2 gimmick matches, 2 tournament matches, and Lyra Valkyria's upset over Becky Lynch. That's like a month and a half of AEW programming for the women. So put the titles on Chase U. Let Chase U walk around as like the tag team champs. That would be a lot of fun. They could do like a whole school spirit thing, whatever they want to do. And just throw some of the random breakout tournament women together into some tag teams and have some tag team wrestling there. And if you get a team that works, then you keep them as a team and you bring them up to the main roster as a team and it works. But on the other side of the coin, if my way out there prediction happens and Nick Aldis sends Isla Dawn and Alba Fire to NXT this coming Tuesday, actually on Halloween, which is nice, to add them to the mix at the last minute, that would be really cool. And it wouldn't be out of the ordinary, because already we can see that they're playing up a little bit of competition between Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. Do you want to show some competition between all 3 brands and throw the 2 of them in an office arguing with Shawn Michaels? Or do you want to use this as the opportunity to reintroduce William Regal as the general manager of NXT? Lots of cool things could happen out of this, but it wouldn't be totally out of pocket for Nick Aldis to be making a move like that, the way he showed up on Raw this past week. Tiffany Stratton and Fallon Henley are going to have a match. Tiffany Stratton's in the back being a bitch. Fallon Henley is a good guy that's tired of Tiffany Stratton being a bitch. Fallon Henley cosplaying as Tiffany Stratton, which I didn't mention in my review, was brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant. I like Fallon Henley. Fallon Henley is just like... I don't want to get my comparisons confused here, but early days Bayley, in the sense of she goes out there, she does her thing, you can tell she's having a good time, and she's just sort of like a feel-good wrestler to watch. So putting her up against Tiffany Stratton, who plays the blonde bombshell bitch so well that people refuse to admit how good she is, that is the perfect makeup of a babyface heel dynamic, and I think Tiffany Stratton's going to win because she's closer to the top of the echelon, and most of the stuff that Fallon Henley does is in coordination with Briggs and Jensen, and she's almost like a manager to them as well as wrestling alongside them. So I don't think she's where Tiffany Stratton is yet as far as her position, but I do think they're sort of letting it go under the radar as to how good she actually is. So when it is, I hate to say it this way, but when it's her turn, I think she's going to show up and show out. I don't necessarily think it's going to be this week on Halloween Havoc. I do think Tiffany Stratton gets the win, but I think Fallon Henley makes a good showing of herself. That being said, I would have said the same thing last week. I said, oh, well, Becky Lynch has got another match with Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria is going to get a chance to make a hell of a showing of herself, and then we'll see what Becky Lynch does with the title next. And they surprised me, so it could be the same here. Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes 3 for the NXT Championship. This is the only one, and I know it's an elevated episode of NXT. It's an NXT special. This is the only one that I wish that they had saved for Deadline, because Deadline's not that far away, in all honesty. It feels bigger than a weekly show, but that seems to be the way, which is absolutely fine. Ilya Dragunov's going to retain. I think Carmelo Hayes is going to the main roster soon. I think it's going to be revealed at some point in this match that Carmelo Hayes was, in fact, the one that attacked Trick Williams. Trick Williams is going to come down, get involved, and he's going to have a brief fight sometime over the next couple of weeks with his former friend, and then at the beginning of next year, he's going to go to the main roster. That is what I see. Although something else that other people have been talking about online and on other podcasts is the potential that it's actually not him. He could still turn heel based on everybody thinking it was him, and it's like, fuck, like, don't you guys know me any better? People have suggested the reveal that it's actually Wes Lee that came and attacked Trick Williams. Now, I think you get a cool triple threat match out of that. Because if Trick Williams was blindsided and he thought it was Carmelo, and Carmelo was pissed off that he thought it was Carmelo, and then it's revealed that it's Wes Lee, you've got Trick Williams that was attacked, who wants to get his hands on Wes Lee. You've got Carmelo, who still thinks Trick is his buddy, who wants to get his hands on Wes Lee because he attacked his friend, but also is kind of pissed off at his friend. So, I don't know. The idea of it being Wes Lee, I don't know if I buy it, but it is what it is. If it is just Carmelo just attacked Trick because they're going to slide him back into a heel role again, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, because Carmelo Hayes, everybody likes the guy. I like the guy. He was being earmarked to join Bobby Lashley's like Hurt Business 3.0 not that long ago, along with Trick, and I did a whole podcast on that. Go back and check it out. I had a lot of fun doing that. I think Ilya Dragunov is, like, he's the guy. Right now he'll go on and he'll do something else as we get closer and closer to Deadline, or he'll take the night off and the Iron Survivor Challenge will decide his next opponent for, like, New Year's Evil or something like that. Dragunov retains. Where Carmelo Hayes sits and where the Trick Williams attack sits, and this outside-the-box idea that it was actually Wes Lee, I don't know how any of that goes. I do want to see, because we got it once, and I need to see it again, and I don't know how I want the dynamics to be. I don't know who I want the baby faces and heels to be just yet, because they're both really dynamic characters. I do need to see Carmelo Hayes versus Wes Lee one-on-one again, without Trick being involved, without Ilya being involved. But that being said as well, as we're going into the following year, if Carmelo Hayes goes up to the main roster, heel Wes Lee going up against Ilya Dragunov is another fucking tasty match. So there's a lot of different possibilities coming out of this match, and none of those possibilities, at least in my head, revolve around Carmelo Hayes getting his hands back on that championship. So I think the Mad Dragon leaves with his gold, because dragons like gold. random Hobbit reference to end the podcast. That's it. I should stop talking now. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.